Hello Tubesters, it's Gav and welcome to another one of my videos. Today I just wanted to show the built uh, Rubicon Models 1 in 56 scale Patton tank. So it's the M48A3 for service in Vietnam. As you can see, 1 in 56 scale is more or less the same as 28mm. I've put this one here just for a comparison. Although these will be on wargaming bases of about 2mm deep, so we will be up slightly higher. Now, although at the moment all my Vietnam figures are Marine Corps in Hue, I will be doing other figures for other parts of other services like the Army, obviously in Vietnam. This will be an Army tank, only because I just couldn't resist putting all my own stuff on it, and the Marine Corps tanks that I saw in Hue were fairly stripped down of stowage. They had the bustle at the back and they had stuff on, but on the whole, they weren't over stowaged, and they weren't, well, we won't call it upgunned, but they didn't have all the extra machine guns and that on. So let's just move him to the side for a minute. Right, let's start from the rear, and let's just turn it round. There's not a huge amount. There is still all dust and that over the top of it where I've been sanding and sticking bits on. The tracks, by the way, and the wheels are just pushed on at the moment, which they will fall off. So let's just turn around. Now, the major problem with this, as I said before to you guys, is the front of the tank. Rubicon have moulded these lovely tracks on. Brilliant. The back, absolutely like the same as the bottom here. See how they're all smooth? Well, that's what you get all the way around there and over the top. On the bottom, over the top, fair enough, you can't see them and you just see the edge of the grips there, so the tread. But this was ridiculous, having none whatsoever. So I've just literally bodged it myself with my Dremel, literally cut them out with a Dremel. Obviously tried to use a panel liner to score down. Not ideal, but what can you do? I've added cast texture on. Sorry, I'm trying to do this around the side of my phone without everything falling off. I've added cast texture onto all the cast areas of the tank, or the majority of them that I could think of anyway. So obviously the rear deck here and turret, obviously a lot's covered up now, but still have to do it. So features and what I've done with the tank. On this side here, this little box here, that's the telephone, for want of a better word, that in fact this guy's actually got a field radio handset in his hand, so you could actually put a wire to him and put him there if you wanted to. But yeah, that's for communicating inside for the commander. Obviously the commander doesn't always want to stick his head out in a firefight to try and listen to you, telling him where you want him, and you don't want to be clambering on the tank. It's a lot easier to be hiding behind this steel mounting than walking along the deck trying to get the crew's attention. So I put a phone in the back. So that's what that little box is there. This is obviously the travelling lock for the barrel. The M48, when it was travelling in non-critical situations, for want of a better word, they would swing the turret round and fix the barrel to the rear deck. Obviously, you do get some tanks with it on the front, but the M48 had it on the back. I've also, didn't show that, I've dinged up the fenders at the back. Some of them are ripped off completely in Vietnam. I've seen lots of pictures with them missing. Obviously not the length of the whole fender, but the ends. But I just decided to carve mine out a bit. I've made my own jerry cans. You do get two that always sit on the turret. I'm really short of all the different styrene sheets and molded bits, the evergreen stuff. But the bits I found I could make them wider by obviously the piece of styrene that I'd got and then add in a couple of bits to the side, which would just make them that bit wider. So yeah, they're just basic shapes. I'd seen a tank. By the way, this tank is an amalgamation of several tanks. It's not taken from a particular one, but the bits on them are, if that makes sense, a stowage. So I'd seen this on a tank where the crew had made, or the workshops had made, a small cradle at the back to hold the jerry cans, rather than just some tanks I've seen them, lash them down different ways. But this one had got a small cradle put on, and they put that on. I thought, oh, that looked good for a bit of difference. The only thing I haven't done yet, and I've just thought about it because I've seen the iron point, lashing points. Some of the tanks had the towing cable. I've seen some without any towing cables at all. I've seen some with towing cables put round the back of the turret, and I've seen some that are lashed from the eye here to the eye at the back there. And I will try and do something like that if it will sit properly. I just forgot to do that, so that's just reminded me. So yeah, I drilled out the holes for these. I don't know if they are there to lash the towing cables along, or if they're there for lifting, lifting eyes. But I had to drill those out. Anything else on this side? We'll go on to the. No, we won't. We'll go to the front first. I made this box. All the boxes aren't. I can't call them faithful reproductions. They're more in the style of, but they are in the style of different boxes that I've seen. Obviously, the crew's got hands on all manner of different military boxes. Some civilian, you don't have to, just to put all their own personal gear and whatever else they've decided. You know what tankers are like. They tend to, they've got the area, so they literally cover them in boxes and tarps and whatever else it might give them a bit of comfort. We've got they do give you the couple of track links, and I'll just put those on. So yeah, I've again just styrene glued together to make them wider and taller, whatever I needed, and then lots of stretch sprue. It's not perfect, but I'm hoping that once it gets painted and then dusted up, it won't look too bad. I decided not to. This is a separate piece, the grab rail. It should stick out more. It didn't, and I just thought, no, I'll leave. I'll go with that rather than you put it with wire. In fact, I've jumped up onto here now, haven't I? Let's go back down here. These are supposed to be 50 cal ammunition boxes. There's a lot of 50s. It needs a lot of ammunition. So they're there. This could be anything. It's not. I'm not using it as an ammo box. It's there for whatever the crew wanted to stow in it. We come around the front without dropping our tracks off. I couldn't see any wires particularly going from the lights, so I've left them there. I mean, I took it. They were just drilled, taken in further down. Obviously, put a few sandbags on, but without going to town, because a lot of the tanks I saw weren't. You got some that were like travelling pillboxes, and I've done an M48 before with all the sandbags around, where they tack welded, bits of metal on, and then made it literally like a fort with sandbags. But a fair few that I'd seen weren't. So I've just put a few on the front with the ones I'd seen have got I think I've got a wooden plank across, but I'd got this I-beam, so I decided to use that. We'll rust it up and that. Anything else on the front? Again, cast texture. I don't think there's anything else that I've put the again drilled the holes out of the different lashing points and towing points. Going around the sides, these will be. There was a hole in the where they obviously do the extrusion for the plastic, the evergreen. There was a hole, so I just plugged it for now. These are ration boxes, or they will be sea rations. This pipe here is actually in the winter, where it was obviously normally be serving. It heats up. It's like an interior heater for the crew. in Vietnam, the crew actually used it to heat their rations up. So yeah, that's what that pipe is if you ever wanted to know. I don't think there's anything else on this side that's particularly shouts out. I'll hold the tank up where I can. I've nibbled out bits of the rubber on the wheels just to show some worn rubber on the wheels. As I say, these are just on. You can literally just pull these away. The suspension and that's stuck to the hull. I'd already cast the hull, cast texture on the hull, which is just hot glue with an old brush cut down, so it's fairly hard and just pressed into the hot glue at the time. Hot glue. It's not hot glue, obviously. It's modelling glue, Tamiya, but I call it hot glue. It's their I can't remember what it's called now, but it's the very light green topped one. What else we got on the turret itself? We have again all different. This isn't a wooden box. No, it is. Yeah, that one's a wooden box, and I'd seen it just roped down to the side, so I thought that was a bit of difference. Tried to do a couple of packs here. This is supposed to be a deck chair, garden chair, whatever. That'll be painted in civilian colours. I'd seen a few of those hanging off the back. Usual tarp. I just used some styrene blocks again to press. When the tarp went over, it gave it some like square, so it looked like they've got boxes on the back. That's another sea ration box. This will have an antenna on at some point. More 50 cal boxes. These two jerry cans are going to be water jerry cans. This is the fume extractor on the tank. Towing eyes, I think these had already got the holes in. I did the usual carpet monster trick with one there, and I tried to put a bit of stretch sprue, but at the time the sprue was too thin, but I've left that for now. 50 cals, obviously a big feature on this one. I've seen two tanks with 350 cals on. One, the original in the cupola. They'd often take this one out just because it was easier for the command. It wasn't so much that they get a better feel of fire and they could see what they were doing. Obviously, it's quite exposed up there, but it was also for getting in and out the tank if you had to bail out. So the two that I'd seen, they had obviously the one in the cupola. They managed to get another one for the top, and they'd actually got a loaders. They'd managed to get one for the loader as well. I'd seen a couple of other tanks where they just got the one, usually on the top of the cupola, and they'd got like the old 30 cals, and even sometimes a Bakshi meaning nicked or found, M60 for the loader. But I went. They supply you with the 250s, and as soon as I saw those two photographs, I thought, yeah, that'll do for me. I've seen a fair few with smoke canisters, smoke grenades. So again, that was just a bit of styrene rod that I had got, and I just put the fly-off levers on with a bit of stretch sprue. Again, the ones that I'd seen, they hadn't got a huge amount of sandbags around. It was just enough just to give a bit of illusion of cover for the loader. Stretch sprue again, that doesn't come with a wire to the searchlight. You can have in Vietnam, obviously you can have them without searchlights, but the searchlight cover on, searchlight cover off, and they do provide you with both options for that. However, it's not a clear part. It is just grey plastic, and they're expecting you, because it is a war games piece. To a degree, they're expecting you to like paint it silver or something. I would suggest I would hollow it out with a burrer and put some form of bulb in there, and then put a piece of acetate over the front if you're going to do that, or you just leave it hollow, because a lot of times they were shot out. This here is something to do with the cupola traverse. It's a guard. It's not an antenna of any description. These would be on the Xeon searchlight. These were like handles, and they're not normally straight to the thing. But again, I just thought cutting it off and replacing with wire, it wasn't really worth it. I think that's about it. Crew-wise, as I've said to you, you get two options. I think mainly they're supposed to be just two options for the crew commander, but you can get away with using one for in the loader's hatch. What I'm trying to do, I've done 3 attempts so far. I can't. I did use my Oshimuru and recast. Where is it? I mean, that's one of the bodies. I'd left the feet off because it was easy to cast that way, and it would be in there. I didn't need it. I was just practicing with that to see if it would work, and it does. Clean it off, and it'll give you a reasonable representation of another crew member. However, I was really struggling with the different. All I want is a head really for the driver, because that's all you ever see on them. But I will put a tiny bit of shoulder left on, which is what that guy was going to be. I've made another one there and put my own arms on, which I don't think will fit in the tank. You literally only need about that much in his head, so we'll see. And I'll stick a bit of styrene rod on him, and then stick him to the floor of the tank. So you'll just see the head, hopefully. But yeah, I'm having trouble getting the head. I can do the back really well. I can do the front really well, but not both at the same time. So yeah, I've got two more goes at the moment in the Yoshimuru, the blue stuff. So there you go. There's our M48 Patton tank. As you see, I'm going to paint these separately, obviously, the wheels and tracks. So what do I think? Fit was really good. Instructions were fairly decent. You can't really gripe about them. The bits that aren't there, silly things like wires to searchlights, so you can't really say anything about that. It's not hard to do a bit of stretch sprue for that. There was no the artwork shows textured hull, classic M48. Well, that lovely texture, you don't get that. It's completely smooth. Would I hold them up for that? Would I hold that against them? No. I mean, it's part of the fun of doing things, isn't it? If you're using it to model as well, which is what I was doing, is it's not hard, as I say. Get whatever glue that you stuck the tank with, hotter the better. And I don't even. Some people put the texture on with primer, brush paint it on, lacquer primer. I just put the glue on and just stipple it and then sand it down just so it's not too rough. I say a lot of the bits you see at the moment, I mean, there are a couple of bits like that's a bit rough there. But yeah, no, the texture's not a problem. As I said, the one problem outside of the tracks was the barrel. I could not get the barrel. There's a sleeve that down there which is separate, which then goes onto this. You can have the mantle. They give you a couple of options to have the mantle covered over like this, which they often were to keep the dust out, obviously, especially in Vietnam. But you can have it just steel as well. And for the life of me, I could not get the barrel in this. They give you like a, it's made to go one way type of thing, and it just would not fit in. I was sanding both down it was a real bind to get it in. However, that could have been down to me. I'm not the most skilled modeler in the world, so that could have been down to me. So, but I'm just saying that's the trouble I had with that. That was the only thing that didn't fit. But again, that could be me. The biggest letdown were those rear tracks. It was almost, as I said in another video, that in their eyes they could save a few pence from not doing that track detail there, because if you're using it as a war game piece, one person will be on one side of a table, one person on the other, and you're only ever going to see the front. They're never going to see the back. Why do we need to put track molding on the back for them? And I thought that was a real letdown to go to so much trouble to make a fairly decent, authentic M48, and to do that, I just thought, that's what were you thinking of around that boardroom table, or design table, whatever they do. That was ridiculous, and I thought that was a bit, sticking two fingers up to the people. So again, if you're just using it for actually scale modelling and not wargaming, I should say, you could just say, well, I'll just cover it at the back with dirt gav. It doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't. That's just this. This is my tank, and I just feel that was a fairly bit shoddy. Yeah, that will fit in better, by the way. But everything like the wheels, the way they do everything, that's fine. That really fits well. As in putting it the way you're supposed to do it. You're not going to go wrong with anything. So, you know, overall, nice tank, even for the track detail, because it's really the only game in town unless you want a resin one. And I like doing the modelling side of it. So I'd probably, you know, if I was to get a second tank, I'd get a second tank. I think that, you know, it's a decent tank. It fits really well. I'd say apart from that barrel, I don't know if that, I'm going to say it's 50-50 because I really don't know if that was me or the kit. So anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by and taking a look. I really appreciate you stopping by. And hopefully the next time you see this, she'll all be painted and weathered. It won't be weathered up to a Steve Jones type of standard on his stuff, because this will have to be held and whatever if I do ever decide to, you know, game it with my figures. So it's not gonna, it's got to be, you know, weathered and painted, that it's not going to just everything fall off as you're holding it or whatever. So it will look decent, hopefully, but not to a diorama type standard of weathering, because obviously there's a lot of it will just fall off in your fingers or whatever. So look after yourselves, and we will catch each other very, very soon on another video.